guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about traveling with an ostomy, which is kind of a tough topic because I know that so many people go on vacations or go for work trips or go to visit family, whatever it is, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my god, this is going to be stressful because I have to go to the airport and TSA is kind of tough to deal with. Well, it's especially difficult for people with ostomies. Urostomies, colostomies, ileostomies, whatever kind of ostomy you've got, it might be a little bit difficult for you to get through TSA, depending on your airport, your personnel, the person that you get that day to pat you down. Some people really, they understand what an ostomy is. Some of those TSA employees have been educated on it, or maybe they have a family member with it. Whatever the case, it's typical for people to have at least some idea of what an ostomy is in an airport. However, I've encountered a number of TSA agents who have no idea what an ostomy is, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my best and worst experiences with TSA employees at the airport. So the thing that got me thinking about this topic was that this weekend I just went to Philadelphia, which is where I'm originally from, and my family lives there, my mother and my father. And as I've told you in the past, I'm really close with my parents, especially my mother. Just given all of the medical issues that I've had over the years, she's been an absolutely incredible part of making sure I'm still alive and I'm doing okay. So my mom is like my biggest cheerleader, and I've been missing her living out here at college. So I went with my boyfriend to go visit my parents in Philadelphia for a few days. So we left Thursday night, and of course that was the dreaded TSA moment. Fortunately though, this time around, things actually went really smoothly. So at my local airport, it's a small airport, it's a smaller city, there's not a lot of people here. I don't think there are even many people with ostomies here. So when we go through TSA, I typically have a good deal of apprehension because I've had really bad experiences at that airport. The worst one, by far, was when I was traveling out to the Mayo Clinic last spring. I had, as I've discussed on this channel, a very serious prolapse. Of course, when I went through the airport, my prolapse was at full-fledged 20 or 19 inches at the time. I would give you guys a tip. Always be sure to empty your ostomy, if you can, right before you get into the TSA line. I was going through the airport as usual, thinking, okay, I've got this ostomy, I've got this prolapse, I'm in pain, just get through the TSA line and you'll be fine, you can sit down again. That is not what happened. I went through their little body scanner and they came up like red hot on the screen for my lower right quadrant was where my ostomy was and where this massive 20-inch prolapse had ended up. I looked in the screen and I looked around and I was like, oh, wow, okay, you guys can really see the ostomy on that x-ray vision. Okay, let me explain. So I explained to them, like, okay, this is a medical device, I can't take it off, I'm sorry, and additionally, it's probably coming up so hot because there's intestine in there right now. I have a problem called a prolapse. The woman who was patting me down and doing the metal detection test had no idea what I was talking about. I don't think she knew what an ostomy was. I don't think she knew what a prolapse was. So she proceeds to take me around to the back, the kind of back office that they tend to take people to when they're kind of suspicious persons. Well, she took me in the back and she started patting down my bag. Now, I typically don't mind when I get frisked, at an airport or at some sort of, I visited the White House before and I got frisked there. It was no big deal. I don't really mind that stuff. But this was extremely invasive because she starts touching and actually being kind of forceful on the bag. And when I tell you guys, you can't feel intestine the same way that you can feel skin, but you can definitely feel when someone's manhandling it. And she was manhandling it. When I tell you this woman was she kind of had a grip on it, I was livid. I was like, please get off of me. This is so uncomfortable. You have no idea. She had to call in a supervisor. The supervisor was like, okay. clearly this is just an abnormal medical situation, we'll let you go. But gosh, that kept me in the TSA line for like half an hour or probably more. And I was worried I was gonna miss my flight, and it was just a mess. For future reference, if you do come across TSA employees that are really uneducated on the topic, I urge you to be very upfront. You can even tell them, sometimes they'll have a person waiting to wave you through to the body scanning area. Please even tell them, listen, I have a medical condition, it's called an ostomy, and I have a bag, and it may have some liquid in it right now, or it may have some, waste in it. Please don't be alarmed, it is just an ostomy bag. Nothing crazy here. I've never heard of someone smuggling through their ostomy bag. So, with that being said, I want you guys to understand that not every experience is going to be as bad as that one was. Mine certainly haven't all been that way. But if you've had a terrible experience with TSA and ostomies, please let me know, because I would feel really interested and comforted almost to know that I'm not the only one who's had this problem. I'm sure the prolapse exacerbated the issue and made it more difficult for them to believe that this was just a bag for fecal dispense, but it was still one of the most awkward and nail-biting nervous moments that I've ever had. Next, we're going to talk about my most recent experience with airport security and TSA. It went so well. So I got my bags checked, I went into the TSA line, showed them my ticket, did all the gigs, everything was looking good. I was really excited to go. My boyfriend was with me, and he was so sweet and considerate and carried my bags because of my 10-pound limit and was just amazing. So I was feeling good going into the TSA line. I was feeling like, okay, I got this. And things actually went pretty well. I was going into the scanner, and I just explained to the woman who was standing outside of the scanner, hey, I have an ostomy bag. It's just a medical device, and if it pops up on the screen, I'd be more than happy to explain or have you guys take a look at it yourselves. So she said, okay. And then she waved me through. I was like, all right. And they saw it on the screen. It showed up bright yellow and red. And then they also saw my PICC line. I have a PICC line in my right arm. So they saw that as well. None of this stuff is metal, but apparently their scanners are quite delicate and they can pick up on heat signatures and other issues that might correlate with weapons of any kind. So they patted me down, they did the metal detector. The easiest part of it was that the supervisor came out pretty quickly. I think the woman who was frisking me, just said, hey, can you come out here for a minute? She knew what an ostomy was. She was very kind to me. And she said, it's okay, we're gonna, you can be on your way in just a minute. I want you to take your hand and I want you to rub where your ostomy bag is, and just lift up your shirt a little bit and show us what it looks like. And then I'm gonna wipe your hand down with this little cloth, and we're going to analyze it for any sort of, I think it's explosive materials. Everything came back negative, because of course I wasn't carrying anything bad with me. And she said, you're well on your way, go ahead. It was such a good experience. I was giddy with happiness after I got out of that line, because nothing had gone crazy. No one had told me get in the back now. It was just a very nice non-confrontational TSA experience, which I couldn't have been more grateful for. So I wanted to let you guys know that I did most recently have a really good experience with TSA. So I have a theory for why things went so well this past time going to Philly. The reason is that after my really bad experience with TSA last, I think it was April, I was so disturbed by what had happened and so annoyed that they had grabbed my prolapse and had no consideration for my personal privacy or pain for that matter, because grabbing a prolapse and pulling on it hurts. So I decided to tell, my mom and my family, and I was like, guys, this was such a bad experience for me. I feel really sad because I love traveling and I don't want to feel like this ostomy keeps me from taking an airplane every time that I need to get from state to state. So my mom said, hey, listen, let's call the TSA people at that airport and just let them know what happened. I mean, I don't need to file any sorts of crazy lawsuits. Nothing permanently damaging happened to me, I would never do something like that. But I just felt like it was really important for these people at the airport to understand that there are people with ostomies out there. They come in all shapes and sizes. They're not even always in the same place. Like my stoma and my ostomy bags have changed places 3 times. So they can be in very various locations on your abdomen, and I think that's something people probably aren't used to seeing. So my advice to you guys, if you've ever had a similar horror story to me at the airport, do this. Call your local TSA, or you can call like the national TSA, and they can patch you into your local airport's TSA team, and just tell them really frankly, listen, this is exactly what happened to me. If you can, try to get the name of the person that's like frisked you and searched you, because sometimes that specific employee might be the only one who's like not aware of this problem. You don't necessarily need to demonize the entire TSA staff. Just explain what happened, explain how invasive that sort of search is for someone with your condition, and explain that you should really have extra training for people because this is not an uncommon problem, and it's going to be more and more important as ostomies and UC and Crohn's and all the other things that come along with having like chronic bowel disorders become more prevalent and more recognized. The problem's only going to get bigger. So don't let your employees live in ignorance and think that it's okay to like pull on someone's prolapse stoma. That's not acceptable. Or even just to make you feel other at the airport, it's not right. It's not a good thing to do to people. So call your local TSA at your airport, let them know, hey, this is what happened to me, I'm an ostomate. We can follow up in person if you need to, but I am just so uncomfortable with what happened, and I really don't want people in the future who have ostomies or other medical devices that are external to their body to feel the way I felt, because it was wrong. Okay, mini rant about TSA is finally over. So I want to talk a little bit more about my other experiences at the airport and with ostomy travel in general. So driving with an ostomy, not a big deal. I'm sure we do it every day, but flying with an ostomy can be a little bit stressful. So TSA, as I mentioned, was like my most stressful part of this entire trip. Back and forth, I had really good experiences this time around, but it really all depends on the day. It depends on the people you're getting. It depends on whether or not that airport might be educated on ostomies, so just keep that in mind. In terms of traveling on a plane with an ostomy, there are a few tips that I have. So first of all, you should understand that when you change elevation when you're in the plane, it's very typical for some people's intestines to swell, so you may feel some bloating, pressure, discomfort. If you have an ostomy, I'm assuming that you probably have pretty serious bowel issues in general, like me, so just be aware, you might be in for like 1 or 2 days of traveler's fatigue and discomfort, just by nature of you having slightly dysfunctional or very dysfunctional bowels. Next thing that I want to talk about is really helpful. I have an ostomy bag. I can do another video where I talk about like what this is and how I use it and where I bring it with me. But it's by Coloplast. I got it as like a free gift, I guess, when I first started ordering ostomy materials from them. It is a very nice bag because it has a hook. You can hang it in the bathroom if there's like a coat hook and have all of your stuff accessible to you instead of having to rely on like the silver shelving that they might have at the airport bathrooms. Typically there's not enough space for your stuff if you need to do a quick bag change and you're like, oh my god, I'm panicking. Where do I put all my stuff? I need to cut it out. I need to Calvicon. I need to powder. Like, how am I gonna do all this in an airport when my flight leaves in 10 minutes? So be sure to try to bring something along these lines, even if it's just, honestly, even if it's just like a plastic bag full of your ostomy supplies, always bring an extra bag. I've had problems at the airport where my bags have ruptured in the middle of like a flight or waiting for a flight, so I can't tell you how invaluable it is to bring something like this, a bag full of your supplies, with you as your carry-on into the airport. You should check extra supplies always in your checked bag. Make sure you bring with you Ostomate supplies, because you never know when you're gonna need to change your bag. You just don't. Most people can like assume, okay, my bag's gonna stay on for like 3 to 4 days without me having to change it. Some people like me, we can't count on that, but whichever type of person you are, the airport is the last place you want to be caught without any bag materials. In my little bag of tricks, I have a very important tool. I have my Coloplast bag scissors. These are medical scissors. You can typically get them like from your Ostomate provider or at a medical supply store. I love having them. The reason I'm including them in this little airplane discussion is that they are under the limit for a blade length, so you can take these with you as your carry-on. These are perfectly fine to bring with you on the plane. A lot of you may know this, but it's a good tip for people like me who didn't know that before I asked my Ostomate nurse if it would be okay if I brought these in my carry-on bag. I just want you to always keep in mind, be prepared. Be prepared for the worst possible scenario. If your TSA takes you in the back and asks you questions, stay calm. Don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. Like having an Ostomate or having a PICC line or having any of the other things that kind of go off on their system, it's not your fault. So don't be apologetic. They should not treat you unprofessionally just because you have an Ostomate. Like I said, my last 2 interactions with TSA went swimmingly, but it's not always the case. So I'm just preparing you guys. It could be a tough thing if this is if you've just gotten your Ostomate, this is your first time taking your like first new vacation as an Ostomate, and you're like, oh, shoot, TSA, what are they gonna say? They may be fine with it. They may ask you some extra questions. I want to hear all about your Ostomate travel experiences, if they've been great, if they've been hellish, whatever it is, anywhere in between. I want to hear about it because, 1, I want to commiserate with people, and I want to know what other people have dealt with. 2, I want to know your tips too. I have some of these, but they're not perfect, they're not foolproof. I'm sure there are other great things that people have devised over the years of having an Ostomate to get through their travel experiences. Because your life is still your life, and you should feel perfectly able to live it just like anyone else. So, all that being said, guys, please leave me comments. Let me know what you thought of my tips, if you disagree with any of them, if you have better ones, or if you have any stories that you think would be fun to share. I'd love to read them. So, have a great day. I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Hi, Valkyrie. Did you just wake up? Hi. Hi, sweetheart. Oh. Okay, I had to throw in these cat shots because I'm a full-fledged crazy cat lady.